Hi, and welcome to Answers News for Thursday, August 30th, our last Answers News for the month of August.
And probably your last one for a while, we hope.
Yes, we hope so. Yeah. We hope so. It's a week today till my due date, so hopefully we won't be too much longer before the baby's here.
Yeah. Are you going to name it Bodie? Bodie would be
You
a really
never
good
know.
name. For boy or girl, I'm telling you.
It's a versatile name. So Avery's been out speaking in Canada. So why don't you just talk a little bit about some of the things that you did up there in Canada?
Sure. Yeah, so I just got back Monday, and thankfully we did not have the baby while we were gone. We made it back safe and sound. But yeah, I spoke at church on one Sunday morning, and then I spoke at two different youth conferences. One was in like the Niagara Falls area, and one was in the London area. And we got a tremendous response. The youth were just so excited and interested. My topics for the two youth conferences was marriage and gender. So they gave me the non-controversial stuff to talk about.
Oh, yeah, of course. Hey, you know, we have some Canadians in the audience.
We do.
It's actually not too far from there. We've got an audience. You guys want to let them know you're here? Let's hear you. Yeah, there they are.
Yeah, they were great events, and it was the questions that the youth asked afterward were really good, and just
I think they really want to know.
Yes.
They want that truth. They want answers to those questions.
Yeah, because I mean, they were talking about how they're constantly bumping up against this teaching in school, and even for the students who are homeschooled, they're running into it everywhere, and they really wanted to get good, solid answers for that. So it was some great events, and we had a really good time.
Yeah, great.
It's good to be back.
So Ken is not here because he's actually flying to Australia right now, and he's going to be at several events there, but we wanted to mention another one that's happening actually tomorrow, Australian time, I believe.
So September 1st, which is tomorrow, but not really tomorrow here.
And Avery, you know a little bit about this one, the ReEngage Conference.
So last year, Ken and Dr. Andrew Snelling, our geologist, both spoke at the ReEngage Conference. This year, ReEngage has gotten two of the folks from Living Waters, Easy Zwain and Mark Spence, are coming to speak at this conference and really just do some practical equipping for evangelism for the attendees. It's looking like a fantastic conference. Yeah, they're going to teach some apologetics and really just do some practical hands-on evangelism training with the attendees. So
to get more information, go to reengage.org.au, and we'll put that link there in the comments as well. And then while Ken is there, he will be speaking twice on September the 9th at Life Point Baptist Church in I probably won't pronounce it right, North Booterham, Queensland. And so you can go to that one. That's at 9:30 a.m. And then he'll also be speaking at Grace Bible Church in Holland Park West, Queensland at 5 p.m. on the same day. So we'll put the links to that, and you can go and find more information about those events. We often have people from Australia on here. We see their, we see them. So if you're from Australia, make sure you comment on here.
Yes.
So we know you're here. And so it's great. You know, we kind of take it for granted, I think, here in the U.S., how many of these kinds of conferences that we have available all the time.
Yeah.
But they're rarer and more challenging to find, especially in Australia.
Right. And if people come to the Creation Museum, or even in the future coming to the Ark Encounter with the new hall, we oftentimes come out here and speak a couple times a day here at the Creation Museum. So you get the opportunity. It's almost like a little mini conference when you're here as well. So we do want to encourage people to come to the museum.
And we do have an office in Australia now, and we do have a full-time speaker there, so hopefully there'll be more of those kinds of events available.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, let's start off with our, this is a fluff article, so here we go. PETA wants Maine officials to build gravestone in memory of lobsters who died in truck crash.
Yeah.
So basically, apparently on August 22nd, thousands of lobsters spilled out onto the highway because of his truck crash, and they want to memorialize, in their words, the countless sensitive crustaceans. No, I mean, seriously.
Okay. So they want to put a gravestone up for lobsters.
Yep.
Who has initiated trying to put all these gravestones up for all the babies that died in Maine as a result of abortion?
Yeah.
I mean, does somebody go so far as to say we need a gravestone for all the strep bacteria that we've killed with antibiotics or something? I mean,
where does it stop?
Where does it stop? Seriously, I mean, that is a great question. Yeah. You see, according to the Bible, man is made in the image of God. We are special, we are unique, we've been given dominion over the earth. There is a big difference between a person and a lobster or a strep bacteria or whatever it might be. And sometimes we need to be praying for people in this country to step back and realize the importance of people and the value of human life.
Yeah, I always say, I have no problems with a gravestone for lobsters as long as, abortion is illegalized and, all of these other things happen.
Yeah.
I mean, I just say that, but I say we talk about taking care of our pets and all of that, and we did a couple articles last week on that. They're just way more elevated than human life, and that's the real problem.
Yeah, it breaks my heart to see that.
It's
really
funny yet sad in so many ways that what people think about these things.
Yeah.
So.
Someone here said they have a grave for lobsters in their stomach.
There is a grave for lobster.
Oh, that's a good one. I like that one. Okay, now we'll get to the real stuff.
Okay.
All right. This one comes from LifeSite News. California Senate passes bill banning books, therapy to help unwanted gay attraction. So we talked about this on Answers News a couple of months ago when the bill had not passed yet. It has now passed the California Senate. And basically this bill, it forbids minors and adults from obtaining sexual orientation change efforts, regardless of their wishes, is basically what this does. Yeah, if they're paying for those,
Right, because it's
they're
under
seeking a counselor who they're paying for their services, that kind of thing.
Right, the Consumer Fraud Act. So basically, they consider it to be a deceptive act or practice to try to convince someone to, well, not convince someone, but to basically to seek help and someone to help you change your sexual orientation from homosexual to heterosexual.
But they can help the other way.
Practice.
They can help you go the other way, though. They can help you go from heterosexual to homosexual.
Sure. Yeah.
But they don't want you to be able to help somebody from being a homosexual to come out of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And pay for it. And you can't even have books, like pay for books that help people do this. And so obviously the big question then is, well, what about the Bible? Because the Bible clearly speaks against homosexuality and that people shouldn't have that lifestyle and shouldn't. So what about that? And they say, oh, no, it's not going to ban the Bible. It's not going to stop people like pastors or things from giving
That's what they say. But what's their next step? Of course, their next step
for
is
how long?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen those kinds of attacks before.
Oh,
so,
yes.
Right.
it shocks me. I mean, there's whole ministries out there because there's a lot of people who come out of a homosexual relationship. They come out of all that sort of thing, and they repent of that sort of thing. And now they're saying that, hey, this is going to be a problem if you try to do that sort of thing, especially if you're, having to buy books or things like that involved in this. So really, what this is it's a form of book banning.
Yeah.
I hate to say it. That's really what it is. Reminds me of the Nazis back prior to World War II. They were doing some things, antics very similar to this, which shocks me.
Yeah, and the thing is too, like I think this really. What was I going to say?
I don't know, but,
I hate when
we could actually turn this around, though. I mean, consider what would happen. I mean, if we said, hey, if there's somebody out there trying to take somebody away from a Christian worldview, trying to get them to go be a secular humanist, for example, or an atheist, and they have to buy a book, well, we should be able to turn around and file charges that way.
And it goes against the whole idea. The left says, oh, well, they're all about gender fluidity, right? That you might be a homosexual one day, but a heterosexual the next day. So what if you decided, in this whole gender fluid area, well, I don't want to be a homosexual anymore. I want to be a heterosexual. You can't get any help to help you do that. And see, to me, it's so inconsistent against their very own definitions of these things.
Yeah, it really is. So
we need to keep our eye on stuff like that because the thing is that these can be, if it's passed in one state, it can be only a matter of time. It opens the door. Until it's passed in other states. And in this article by Todd Starnes, he says, one of the people that he was interviewing said, people hate what the Bible teaches. That is absolutely, in my opinion, where all of this is going, towards the Bible and ultimately towards the pulpits that preach the Bible. And
I can see that. I mean, I could see pastors being a target and churches being a target as a result of these types of things.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they actually say it's a form of censorship, and that's really what it is.
Yeah. And it's not going to, I mean, like we've seen, LGBT, that whole movement, they want total compliance. I mean, nothing short of total compliance will be acceptable to them. Okay.
This next one comes from Fox News, again about California. We're not picking on you today, California, but it seems like we pick on California a lot. California kids can kiss their soda goodbye as Kooky law aims to ban yet another things liberals don't like. So this is about a proposed bill that would prohibit restaurants from offering anything but milk or water with their kids' meals. So they're not able to advertise that you can have.
If they can't get soda there to kiss it goodbye?
Can't have, so parents could still potentially order a separate drink for their child that's soda, but the restaurant can't advertise soda, or pop as we call it where I come from, as part of the meal.
And if you're down south, it's all called Coke.
Well, and the thing is that what's funny about it is California has also banned straws. So I don't know what the kids are even going to use to drink, with. I mean, they're going to have to use the cup for sure and not a straw. But and it just goes more to this whole, it's a bully state, a nanny state.
Yeah, that's what it actually says in the article, yeah.
People's actions. I mean, as a parent, I have a right to choose what my child drinks. I mean, and eats. That's my right. And so it's wanting to infringe, really.
Yeah, and they're trying to frame it as this, like, we're trying to help kids be healthy, right? Because drinking too many sugary drinks can potentially lead to obesity and cancers later in life.
Well, that's
so
actually
we wanna,
their argument in here.
So yeah, they're trying to, like, we've got this good thing that we're
obese.
doing, but really they're just stripping away parental rights slowly, little by little, over things that look good from face value, but really it's just a stripping away of parental rights.
I mean, that argument is so illogical. Oh, if you drink soda, you're going to be obese. I mean, seriously, I mean, that's so illogical. And they're willing to pass laws then to oppose that sort of. I'm surprised PETA hasn't stepped in. Oh, no milk.
Yeah.
I mean,
poor cows.
What's going on here? I mean,
that it just goes too far, right?
Yeah,
I mean, and that's the problem with it. Somebody on here said, they said lobsters aren't friends, they're food. And so I would agree with that. I like a good lobster. So don't.
I've actually never had lobster, so I don't know.
There's somebody here who says, I'm in California and it's so pathetic.
Yeah, it's
so
sad.
They're seeing the results of this.
And we can't just be in the mindset that, that's happening in California, that's not where I live. Guess what? It's only going to be a matter of time till it is where you live. So you better care what happens there.
And parental rights are being stripped away all across the country and in Canada as well, particularly over issues regarding gender and sexuality. You can't choose to take your children, out of the class on sexuality, like the sex ed curriculum. You can't choose to take your children out. Things like that.
Kids,
or we don't need to tell parents what we're teaching their children. So parental rights are definitely under attack, and we need to be aware of that.
Yep.
Okay.
This next one comes from Christian Post. Christian website Social Cross refused service by web developer over views on gay marriage. So there is a pastor who is trying to create basically a Christian Facebook kind of idea, because often his posts on LGBT issues are being censored.
Originally did that.
Or censored, I mean.
Yeah, and they basically started their own version of Facebook, a Christian version of it, and they're being denied service on certain
so the company that they were trying to use to help build it didn't want to work with them because of their views on marriage.
Because you guys are Christian, really is what it was. Right. They held to Christian views of marriage.
Yeah, and I love what the pastor said. He said, this is a private business, and I believe that in America you should have the right to refuse. But the double standard is where I have the issue. If you can do it to Christians, then Christians should be able to do it to you without a problem. So that's really what the issue is.
That's the thing that really got me as I read it, is that the guy who owns this wasn't against this company refusing to help him, but he's against the fact that if a Christian florist or a Christian baker refuses to make a wedding cake or flowers for a gay wedding, that they're sued. I mean, they're not allowed to do that. And so, so it's
you don't see the Freedom from Religion Foundation or the ACLU or something jumping on this and being like, oh, this is, this is wrong because this person's being censored for what they believe. Of course not.
And we know that censorship is occurring a lot. I've been listening to some of the podcasts I listen to where they say, hey, I had this on Facebook, but Facebook took it down. Something that was anti-LGBT. And so it's happening all the time. And so one of the things that Answers in Genesis has done recently is that we have partnered with Flix, which is sort of a Christian alternative to Netflix, to be able to offer all of our DVDs, past, present, and future, on their streaming service. So it's a really nice deal, so to speak, and we hope to soon in the future be able to offer Answers News through Flix as well. Because we truly believe it's only a matter of time till we're not going to be allowed on Facebook and things like that.
The more censorship we see, I mean, that's going to happen more and more.
So this allows the content to still get out, and it's really inexpensive. For the cost of less than one DVD a month, you can have access to all, it's like 500, I think, of our DVDs and
Eventually,
other
how many on there?
Media.
You could binge on Georgia Purdom.
My daughter would say that'd probably put you to sleep, but and all the other great media and things that they have on there. So I encourage you to check that out, and we'll put a link to that in the comments so that you can see that. All right.
All right. This one comes from The Guardian. What God has not joined together, the rise of the Humanist Wedding. So this article is announcing that as of last year, the Humanist Society of Scotland actually married more people than the Church of Scotland. And it's just talking about how secular weddings, these humanist weddings, are on the rise, and church weddings are on the decline. Weddings in general are on the decline, but particularly church weddings.
So why would non-Christians want to get married? Just think into that. Marriage is something that comes from the pages of Scripture, from a literal Genesis, a literal Adam and Eve. Jesus defended this. Marriage comes from the pages of Scripture. Okay. After the flood, people go to various parts of the world. They take that doctrine with them, but ultimately they are borrowing it from the Word of God. I mean, if people are out here arguing, for, say, an atheistic worldview, which is one of the secular humanistic views and so forth, why?
Yeah.
Why would you get married? Why would you limit yourself? In an evolutionary worldview, your goal is to spread your genes to as many people as possible. Getting married actually goes against that.
Yeah.
And on top of that, can you cheat on your wife? Can you have adultery? Can you do things like that? Because, where does their God say not to do that?
There's no standard.
That comes from the Bible too,
standard,
you see.
Yeah.
The standard of being pure and being honest and truthful in your marriage to your husband or your wife, those are biblical concepts. And people are going to throw the Bible out of it.
And the thing is, all throughout this article, they talk about, the reason people are wanting these humanist weddings, they want non-religious ceremonies. They want to be non-religious. Guess what? There's no such thing. Everybody is religious, right? Whether you believe in God or don't believe in God, that's a religious belief. And so it's not so much that they're non-religious, it's just that they want to be a particular religion.
Right,
being atheist or agnostic.
Right, yeah. They call it humanist or secular humanism. That's a very famous religion. Atheism is a famous religion and that sort of thing. But really, these are all part and parcel. We would dub them under the general category of pagan rituals is really what this is. People don't step back and realize that paganism is right around our block, left and right.
Yeah.
It's being taught in our schools and our museums and the secular media. I remember Carl Sagan was famous for the statement that, the universe is all there ever was, ever is, and ever will be. That's ultimately a pagan statement right there. And yet people adhere to that left and right nowadays. So really, this is a pagan ritual.
And what's amazing to me too, like they talked to the principal clerk at the Church of Scotland. Okay, so he is associated with the church obviously, and he's lamenting that he said his church has failed to market its increasingly liberal approach to weddings. And I thought, what? So apparently, even the Church of Scotland, they will offer you basically a humanist wedding if that's what you want. So they said, we're just doing a bad marketing job. More people would be coming here to get married if we did a better job of this. And I'm like, wait a minute, seriously? Like the church is having to market for people to come and get married? And even then, it's not a biblical definition. They're not following the biblical definitions. They're just following their own ideas.
I think sometimes, it's the names. They call it a secular wedding or whatever. It's a pagan ritual. But consider abortion. They use that word. That's child sacrifice, Right. When it comes to euthanasia, you could throw a fancy word, euthanasia, in there, but really that's just sacrifice of your elderly. We need to understand and just cut to the heart of what this stuff is. These are pagan practices that are going on all around us.
Yep, surely. Yeah. Somebody on here said, love pure Flix. Recently watched Georgia speaking. It was awesome and it didn't put me to sleep. That's a good thing. Oh gosh. Okay.
All right. This next one. This one's great. Oh my goodness. This one comes from the BBC. Dinosaur DNA Clues Unpicked by researchers at University of Kent. So they say their work uncovers the genetic secret behind why dinosaurs come in such a variety of shapes and sizes. So they found dinosaur DNA. Is what you think when you start reading this.
Have they found it?
Have they, Dr. Proto?
Well, it's not from a dinosaur, that's for sure, because DNA is too fragile, right? And it won't last even thousands of years, which, we know the fossils are really thousands, not millions of years old. So then you get down into the article further, and it says they used mathematical techniques, right, to identify the possible genetic characteristics working backwards from their closest modern-day relatives, birds and turtles.
Yeah. So no dinosaur DNA actually involved. It's
no.
Bertle and
Birtles?
Birds and turtles. That's what
Turtle and bird DNA and mathematical equations.
Yeah, this article just makes me sad
Okay.
as a geneticist.
Okay, they're arguing here, naturally that birds are descendants of dinosaurs, but a line
fits
right
with
up
their
above it
philosophy.
here, it says, a massive asteroid impact 66 million years ago that wiped out all the dinosaur groups. Well, if it wiped out all the dinosaur groups, what changed into birds?
I don't know.
Yeah. See, those are actually two different of their models. One model
Right,
says
yeah.
dinosaurs evolved in birds. One said they all went extinct. Now they're trying to mix the two models, but
And they say that the dinosaur DNA was probably organized into chunks called chromosomes.
Duh. Like every other living thing on the planet. I mean,
Big
this
shock.
is not rocket science.
so let me get this
people.
straight. Birds and turtles have chromosomes, so they think, wow, dinosaurs must too.
Yeah, seems amazing.
Okay.
Because most things do, except
can go
for
with that one,
bacteria,
but
pretty much. I mean, even
ancestral.
then, it's a circular chromosome. They still call it a chromosome. That's just how God designed pretty much every living thing. But what got me was, okay,
yes.
so this is from one of the professors that worked on it. Okay, and I'm going to read this and I'm going to interpret it for you. She says, the fossil evidence and now our evidence, okay, so their construction of the dinosaur genome, reinforces the idea that rather than birds and dinosaurs being distant relatives, they are one and the same. The birds around us today are dinosaurs. That is a completely circular argument, right? They're like, well, we know, okay, so we came up with the dinosaur genome by looking at birds and turtles, right? That's how we put it together. And that just reinforces that birds and dinosaurs are one and the same.
That's affirming the
Well,
consequent
it's
fallacy.
duh, because you started with bird DNA to figure out what it was in the
You
first
assume
place.
what you're trying to prove. So
right.
Oh.
it's just,
Affirming the consequent
yeah.
fallacy.
This is
Yeah,
sad.
they're in here
It was a
saying-
pretty sad one.
They said this variation help the creatures evolve quickly in response to changing environments. See, that's their climate change model
Climate
again.
change.
Over and over again. It's
Yeah.
climate change. Everything's because of climate change. Now I want you to understand something here. They argue climate change in the past, climate change in the past, climate change in the past. We see climate change today, and guess what? They're like, man did it! In their model, man was never there
Man
for all
wasn't
those
there.
others,
Yeah.
but all of a
Right,
sudden
yeah.
this one, they want to blame it on man.
yeah.
The wrong starting point,
So-
wrong conclusions.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
articles like that that just make me sad.
Now, big picture.
As a geneticist.
Birds,
We can do better than that.
birds
Yeah.
are made on day 5.
Right.
Yes.
Okay?
The
flying
Dinosaurs made on day
Day
6, being land animals.
Yeah.
Not related, and birds were actually around first.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
not a big deal.
Doesn't work.
Finding them buried in flood sediment all the time is not a big deal.
Yep.
Someone's asking here when my due date is. It's a week from today. So this might be the last time you see Man Answers News for a while.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
She
hoping
hopes
anyway.
so.
So I had someone that I saw in here was arguing, well, atheism, naturally, they want to say, oh, it's not a religion. It's not a, if it's not a
Right.
religion, how is it compatible with young earth creation, for example? If it is not religious, then it should not oppose religious claims. How then is it compatible with, say,
Yeah.
young earth creation, Christ creating all things in 6 days?
Yeah.
How is it? That's the question.
Yep. Okay.
This next one comes from phys.org, a timescale for the origin and evolution of all life on Earth. So this was a study based on basically molecular clocks, which have a lot of evolutionary assumptions built into them, to try and figure out, okay, the fossil record's really fragmented, so we can't really tell when life started based on the fossils, so let's use this technique instead, and it puts life at about 4.5 billion years ago, which is the same time the Earth is supposed to have
Yeah, that's a
formed.
problem.
Big problem.
That's a huge
Right.
problem because even the simplest organism, okay, which most of us would think about bacteria, are extremely complex in their own right.
Extremely.
Yeah.
So now, they used to say that life on Earth started 3.5 billion years ago. Now they're moving it a billion years, later, so it's 4.5 billion years ago when the Earth formed. So how is there any time for this to have evolved?
So basically,
I mean,
it started that fast. The earth forms and life is there.
Yeah.
Basically,
That's
is
really what they're
saying.
arguing by their particular model.
Right.
And they say this all happened with an extra planet that comes in and strikes the Earth and causes all these problems, and the moon forms out of it 4.5 billion years ago, they say, and life
And
starts right
somehow
there.
life starts right then. Yeah.
Okay, I want you to understand story. That's all that is.
Yeah.
It's a story. It's mythology. It's not
Well,
real.
and it doesn't work. From an evolutionary standpoint, what's going to have to happen, and we've seen this over and over again, is they will push the origin of life into outer space. So, because outer space is older than Earth, it's 15 billion years old. So you've got all this time for life to have evolved out there, and then somehow it gets to Earth, I guess about the same time
Panspermia
it
is what they
forms,
argue, yeah.
Right, and so then that's how you get life on Earth.
Of course, they have a
Yeah.
problem. If you start with God and His Word, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was on the first day. It was right there. So really, Earth was around before a lot of this other stuff. God stretched out the heavens and so forth, made the heavenly bodies on day 4. You know, so I mean, it's totally backwards when you start with what God has to say. So this is a humanistic viewpoint. All they're trying to do is push everything back farther because they don't have evidence, and so they're just trying to push it somewhere into oblivion.
Yeah, and the molecular clock dating method, like what they're using to try and figure this out, is based on evolutionary assumptions. So again, it's that they're basically assuming what they're trying to prove.
Well, they're looking at the differences in DNA between different organisms and saying, well, more differences they have, the farther apart they are, evolutionarily speaking. The less differences, the closer they are. Well, that's not what the differences are. They're just legit differences that God designed into their DNA. They're different created organisms.
They're
Interpreting them through an evolutionary worldview. Yeah.
Somebody said, I wonder what would happen if Avery started having contractions on Answers News. So we've not practiced that one, and we hope not to. So.
Could be a very dramatic episode.
All right.
I just got 7 more minutes.
That's right. I'll just be like, just lay there, let us finish, you know?
All right, this next one comes from Fox. Chance of alien life given massive, it's all in caps, boost as scientists reveal water likely on thousands of exoplanets. So exoplanets are planets that orbit other stars out in the universe, not our sun. And they're arguing that many of these exoplanets potentially are covered in water. And of course, if there's water, there must be life.
I like the way you said that, potentially. You know, they've never actually detected the water out there. They're just presuming that these ones in this particular range might have water.
Yeah.
And so they automatically say, look, 4,000 of them. But really, I mean,
that's what I wrote here, all based on assumptions, you know, assumption after assumption. And just because, and even the temperature that they're saying for a lot of these places, 200 to 500 degrees Celsius. No, that doesn't work for life like at all.
Yeah, so the planet isn't like this nice water-covered world like ours
vapor.
is. It would be water vapor, and then they believe there's like ice down in the crust and all that kind of thing. So it's not like Earth. It's completely different anyway.
The exoplanets with 2.5 times the radius of Earth and a mass 10 times bigger than Earth are probably water worlds.
Yeah, more fuzzy words.
It's all guesswork here. Now, I do like the fact that they recognize that water is essential for Earth. You know, I mean, the Bible talks extensively about water. You know, water is essential for life. You know, Jesus even talks about, you know, himself being the living water and that sort of thing. You know, so I mean, you know, from that aspect, they get it right. But just because you find water somewhere doesn't mean you're going to find
You have to have information.
Water and life are very
an
different.
information system like DNA to have life. And for that, you can't just have randomness come about by chance. It has to be by a designer.
Yeah.
Right. So do we ever find aliens? Nope. Do we ever find them?
And yet they keep coming up with more excuses.
Here's why we don't find them. This next article, a blog from Scientific American, explains why we haven't found aliens yet. The article is called Maximum Alienness. What might make life hard to recognize as life? And you've brought up this point before. A lot of people just assume if we find that if there's life in outer space, it's got to be just like life on Earth. But why would you assume that? If life evolved here and it evolved somewhere else, it could have evolved completely differently over there. And this article is basically arguing that, saying if life evolved out there somewhere, how would we even recognize that it's life? It could be so different.
It's just another excuse. As to why, they're always coming up with excuses as to why we don't find alien life. This is yet another one. Well, we wouldn't recognize it even if we saw it. Okay. And because they have no evidence, so they have to come up with some explanation, even though they think it should be there. I mean, if evolution is true and the universe is a lot older than Earth, then why isn't there life that we know of yet? Why don't we? You know.
And other articles have said it's because of climate change that killed them, or because their gravity's too strong so they can't actually get off their planet, or there's like a whole bunch of different. We always seem to have every couple of weeks we've got a new reason why. And this is just the newest reason.
Yet,
we couldn't recognize
he who
it
is
if we
ultimate life and the creator of life stepped into history in the man Jesus Christ, and people don't want to recognize him.
Yeah,
he came to us. He created us in his image, and yet they don't even want to.
Well, they even talk about how biological life is so fleeting, you know, it's so quick on a cosmic scale that maybe all that's left of these aliens is their machine progeny. So the Borg are coming, apparently. You know, I mean, for us, that's all we're going to find.
It's pet rocks.
Pet rocks?
Yes, later on in the article, they talk about maybe your pet rock might be life. You're just living too fast to notice because of all the chemical processes happening. So
Or dark matter.
Dark matter. Yeah, that was
Maybe
another one.
there's life in dark matter.
There was something else I noticed in here. It says, while we can gaze across the 13.8 billion years of cosmic history, no, we're gazing across the present.
Yeah, exactly.
I want people to realize that when we look out into the heavens, we're looking at the present.
Right.
We
We're
live
not
in the present. We're looking at the present. So, I mean, there's concepts here that people sometimes don't understand. They fully don't grasp the concept of light and all that. But I noticed later on in the article, they're appealing to thousands, millions, billions, or even trillions of years.
Well, and they even say at the very end, the trick is to maintain scientific rigor. So much for that idea.
Have they observed or repeated aliens?
That went out with the article title.
Yes.
So.
All right.
All right, so we have one more, and this is a fun one to end.
Yeah, this one's cool.
Yeah.
This one comes from Live Science. Lost Squadron World War II warplane discovered deep beneath a Greenland glacier. So there was basically a whole fleet of airplanes that, because of a storm during World War II, were forced to land in Greenland.
Yeah, 6 P-38s and 2 B-17 bombers landed in 1942.
They've recovered one at Glacier Girl, put the plane back together in flying condition, and now they found another one buried beneath 300 feet of ice.
Not 300 layers, 300 feet of layers.
Right.
Now, to me, that's shocking because, we're told one layer is 1 year.
Right.
So we have 300 feet of layers that occurred in, less than 75 years here, around 75 years, I guess. And so I did a calculation on this because I'm like, well, how big are ice sheets? They're about 6,000. I looked up 6,600 feet thick up to about 10,000 feet thick. And I thought, okay, so for every 75 years, you get about 300 feet of ice layers.
That's
well, let's do a calculation. How long would it take to make the ice sheets? It'd be 1,650 years minimum to a maximum of 2,500 years maximum there. So does it take hundreds of thousands of years to make these ice sheets? No, not at all. Even by the calculations, the uniformitarian dates that we use from our observations today, it doesn't work that way.
Well, they were really surprised to find these things buried so deep. They didn't think they'd be this deep because, again, the idea is that the layers slowly form and it takes a long time, but it doesn't.
That's the whole assumption behind ice core dating.
Right. Catastrophic conditions like storms and bad weather, which
that's right. You get multiple layers in one storm. This whole concept that, wow, every March 1st you get a new ice layer. I mean, that's just crazy talk.
Yeah.
So,
and we even have an exhibit of this at the Ark Encounter with Glacier Girl that they found that shows, I love that. It's one of my favorite exhibits to show that, these uniformitarian assumptions, that it's gradual, it's very slow, are just totally, blown out of the water by the fact that these planes were buried so
it does not match with what was expected.
So. Right. Well, we have a couple of books here. I know we were talking about dinosaurs, and a lot of people have questions about dinosaurs, particularly a lot of kids. There's a lot of secular kids books on dinosaurs. These are a couple of them. We have Dinosaurs for Kids, and we have Dinosaurs of Eden. Both are excellent. Have some great content as well as brilliant illustrations in here. I want to encourage people to consider those books. I mean, even adults would love those.
Yeah, you'll learn a lot as a parent.
I like Dinosaurs for Kids. I think it teaches a lot, especially if you're an adult and don't know much about dinosaurs. That book is really great for equipping you because that is a huge, huge factor when it comes to indoctrinating children with the idea of evolution in millions of years. The
dinosaurs are used more than anything.
Need to do that.
Well, it's interesting. One of the questions that popped up on here, they were talking about distant starlight because I'd mentioned starlight. And, it's fascinating. I've actually written on this. And so has Dr. Danny Faulkner, Dr. Jason Lyle, a number of astronomers and astrophysicists have discussed this. I want to encourage people to hop on our website and look at the different models about distant starlight. I've been fascinated by some of these, and we've got ways to potentially solve it, but the secular world has the same problem. Actually, theirs is worse. It's called the horizon problem. So, they've got a distant starlight problem. They don't want anybody to seemingly know about that one. It's called the horizon problem. Look that one up. But it is fascinating.
All right. So. We are out of time, but I did want to make a note. There is no episode on Monday because it is Labor Day. It is a holiday, so there will not be.
You're going to be in labor on that day. Is that what you said?
We are not laboring.
It would be very ironic.
So she might be, but we're not. So.
So we'll be back next Thursday, or somebody will be back. Probably not me. That's my due date. Hopefully I won't be here. But next Thursday at 2 p.m. So
all right, God bless you guys.
See you then.
See ya.
All right.